So I thank all the devotees for very kindly inviting me. I thank the organizers of ISKCON of Bergen County for having me, because Kartik is very near. In another 10-15 days time, we will be celebrating the most auspicious festival of Kartik. So thank you so much for inviting me prior. And before we begin, we will chant the Mangalacharan prayers, seek auspiciousness from our spiritual superiors, and then start today's discussion. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swame Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadhi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hema Divya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I would want to express my heartfelt gratitude at the lotus feet of Abhay Charana Aravinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, because of whose endeavor and whose mercy, I think we are all assembled here. If not for Srila Prabhupada, I think probably none of us would have had interest for Hari Katha, leave alone the excitement to celebrate the month of Kartik. So we all offer our most humble obeisances at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, because of whose mercy we are here. And likewise, as I said, I want to express my gratitude to the organizers of ISKCON of Bergen County, Ram Tulsi Prabhu, for very kindly inviting me. Ramchandra Prabhu, thank you so much for having me here. And all the devotees of ISKCON of Bergen County, I beg and pray for your best wishes and blessings so that I can speak some favorable words in the glorification of today's topic. Please accept my very humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna. Sripad Sanatan Goswami, in his book called as Krishna Lila Stava, he gives 5 characteristics of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada very beautifully has kept in the morning program. Temples around the world, we have morning Bhagavatam class. So Sripad Sanatan Goswami in his Krishna Lila Stava, he says this Srimad Bhagavatam has 5 qualities. It has 5 characteristics or 5 attributes, so to say. What are the 5 qualities? Tam Adidevam Karuna Nidhanam Tamalavarnam Suhitavataram Apara Samsara Samudra Setum Bhajamahe Bhagavata Swarupam. He says the first quality of Srimad Bhagavatam is Tam Adi Devam. Adi Deva means the first primeval being. Just like Krishna is called Adi Dev. We see so many devotees around. They have the name Adi Dev Das. So Krishna is called as Adi Dev, the first original being. Similarly, Bhagavatam is also called as Adi Dev. The second quality, Tam Adi Devam Karuna Nidhanam. Srimad Bhagavatam has appeared in this world out of compassion for the jivas of Kali. Because we see in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages of Naimisharanya, they say, Prayana Alpa Ayusha Sabhya Kalau Asmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Upadhrita. People of Kali, they're not very intelligent. And to add to that, the lifespan is not very long. Ideally, the Bhagavatam describes that the lifespan is 100 years. But nowadays, we see no one lives up till 100. Especially in the last 2 years of COVID, we see people are departing this world in the age of 40 and 50 and 60. So this is the age where lifespan is not much, intelligence is not much, people are not very fortunate. So out of compassion, out of karuna, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord has descended in this world as Srimad Bhagavatam. Third quality, what is the complexion of Srimad Bhagavatam? Tamala Varanam. Tamal is a tree in the land of Vrindavan. We see Krishna is always compared to the Tamal tree. The Tamal tree is bluish black in color. Devotees who have gone on Giriraj Parikrama would have seen the Tamal tree. The Tamal and Kadamba trees. The Tamal tree represents Krishna, while the Kadamba, which is white in complexion, represents Srimati Radharani. So what is the complexion of Srimad Bhagavatam? Tamala Varanam. It is bluish black in complexion. Fourth quality, Suhita Avataram. Suhita Avataram basically means the Supreme Lord has advented in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam as a sound incarnation. We see just like in the society of animals, the Supreme Lord, he advents as Varahadev. In the society of human-like personalities, that same Lord appears as Maryada Purushottam Ramachandra. In the society of mountains, that same Supreme Lord, he appears as Giriraj Govardhan. And in the society of transcendental sound vibration, that Supreme Lord has appeared as Srimad Bhagavatam, Suhita Avataram. So till now, we have seen four qualities. Tam Adidevam, Karuna Nidhanam, Tamala Varanam, Suhita Avataram. And the fifth and the most important, Apara Samsara Samudra Setum. The whole line is the fifth quality. What is this? What does this mean? Apara samsara. This samsara is compared to an ocean. It is that ocean which is very deep and very dark. The ocean of repeated birth and death. But if there is one bridge, apara samsara samudra setum. Setu means a bridge. We see in pastimes of Sri Ram, we have Ram Setu, the Setu that Maryada Purushottam Ramchandra built. Similarly, in this age of Kali, there is only one viable, one bona fide, one authentic bridge that can help jivas cross over this ocean of repeated birth and death. And that bridge is the bridge of Srimad Bhagavatam. Apara samsara samudra setum. And we find the same point Shukadev Goswami makes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, samsara sindhu ati dustara ati tirsha. He says this ocean is very deep to cross, very difficult to cross. Even if someone is the best among swimmers, even if someone is Michael Phelps, having won multiple Olympic gold medals, still they will not be able to cross this ocean. He says, samsara sindhu ati dustara. In Sanskrit, dustara means difficult. Ati dustara, it is very difficult. You see, Shukadev Goswami could have just said dustara, it is difficult. But he says, no, not just difficult. Samsara sindhu ati dustara. It is very difficult to cross over this ocean. But then he says, there is only one way. There is only one way to cross this ocean. And what is that way? Lila katha rasani sevana antarena. Submissive oral reception of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. This is the only boat, not even a ship, it's a boat. This is the only boat that can take the jivas across this deep ocean of repeated birth and death. So we see whether it is Sripad Sanatan Goswami in Krishna Lila Stava or Srila Shukadev Goswami in Bhagavad, both are fundamentally making the same point that without hearing the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, without taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no question of going back to the Supreme Lord. And we see that this Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from the Supreme Lord. Every canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it maps to a particular limb of the Supreme Lord. Like the first two cantos, they are nothing but the lotus feet of the Lord. Canto 3 and Canto 4, they are the thighs of the Lord. Canto 5 is the navel of the Lord. Canto 6 is the chest of the Lord. We see we are progressively going up. From Canto 1, we are progressively from the lotus feet, we are just going up. So Canto 6 is the chest of the Lord. Canto 7 and 8, oh, they are the arms, the bahu. They are the arms of the Supreme Lord. Canto 9 is the neck of the Supreme Lord, which leaves Canto 10 as the beautiful, smiling, moon-like face of Shyam Sundar Shri Krishna. Canto 11 is the forehead, while Canto 12 is the head. So in this way, systematically, Shukadev Goswami, he maps every canto of Bhagavat to a particular limb of the body. But very interestingly, we see when we look at someone, it's not the arms that we look at. It's not the feet that we look at. When we first look at someone, it's the face that we look at. If the face of that person is smiling, it just attracts our heart. So similarly, the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to that smiling moon-like face of Shyam Sundar Shri Krishna, which is the most attractive. The whole of Srimad Bhagavatam is like a mango fruit. It is very juicy. But even in that, there is one canto which is the sweetest, and that is the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the point I'm trying to reiterate is the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is like the smiling face of Shri Krishna. While another commentator, he says, oh, this 10th canto is like the heart of Shri Krishna. He says, another commentator, the 10th canto is like the heart of Shri Krishna. And we see according to Ayurveda, the heart has pancha pran. It has 5 life airs. It is because of these 5 life airs that the heart is pumping. So similarly, if the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the heart of the Supreme Lord, which means 10th canto should also have pancha pran. The 10th canto should have 5 important essential life airs. And dear devotees, these 5 essential life airs are nothing but the Ras Panchadhyay, the 5 chapters of the Rasa dance, Canto 10, chapter 29 to chapter 33, 34 onwards. 5 most essential chapters of the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam. We see Bhagavatam has 335-ish chapters. But in that 335 chapters, if there is 5 important chapters, the most important, it is the chapters of the Ras Panchadhyay. Very important. So just like Bhagavatam has 5 chapters which are the most important, similarly Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita also has 5 chapters, 5 sections which are the most important, of paramount importance. We say Bhagavatam, if Bhagavatam is Krishna, Chaitanya Charitamrita is not different from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Bhagavatam, whatever Bhagavatam has, the same thing Chaitanya Charitamrita also has. So Bhagavatam has these 5 important chapters, and Chaitanya Charitamrita also has these 5 important chapters. What are these 5 important chapters? First, Rup Siksha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to Srila Rupa Goswami, Madhya Lila, chapter 19. Second, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to Sripad Sanatan Goswami, called as Sanatan Siksha, Madhya Lila, chapter 20. Third, we have the Rath Yatra Prasang, the Snan Yatra, the Gundicha margin, etc. So that is the 3rd section. Fourth, the 6 Ashtakam prayers, the prayers that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted in Gambhira during his final days. So the first is Rup Siksha, Mahaprabhu's teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami. Second, Sanatan Siksha, Mahaprabhu's teachings to Sripad Sanatan Goswami, which is Madhya Lila chapter 19 and 20 respectively. Then third is the Rath Yatra Prasang, where you have Gundicha margins, Snan Yatra, and other pastimes. Fourth is the 6 Ashtakam prayers, which we chant every day in the morning. And the 5th and the most important, even amidst these 5, 5th and the most important is Raya Ramananda Samvad. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conversations with Sri Ramananda Rai. Very important. If there is one chapter in the whole of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the most important, it is Ramananda Rai Samvad. This Rai Ramananda Samvad has the seed of all philosophical discussions. All the Krishna consciousness philosophy that we have heard in the youth forums, in the DYS classes, in the newcomer classes, all the philosophy that we have heard, it finds its origin in this epic Rai Ramananda Samvad that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had with Ramananda Rai on the banks of Godavari. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, of the 335 chapters, there is 5 chapters that are most important. But in that 5 chapters, also there is one chapter which is the most important, that is Gopi Geet. Likewise, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, of all the chapters, there are 5 chapters that are more important. But even amidst those 5 chapters, there is one chapter which is like the icing on the cake, which is the crest jewel. That is Rai Ramananda Samvad, Mahaprabhu's conversation with Ramananda Rai. So Samvad basically means conversation. So Mahaprabhu's conversations with Rai Ramananda. And this Rai Ramananda Samvad is going to be the theme of our discussion. Of course, we are not going to get in detail because the whole of Rai Ramananda Samvad is more than 250 verses and they're very technical. So in the interest of time, we will not be, of course, going into detail, but we will just skim the surface and try to take some essential points from Rai Ramananda Samvad that can help us or nourish our bhakti or increase our enthusiasm for the upcoming month of Kartik. So we find Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the place called as Jagannath Puri. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he tells Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go and meet Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai at that time is in South India. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he tells Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, oh Mahaprabhu, why don't you go and meet Ramananda Rai? He gives a recommendation. He gives an IDC. Just like we have ISKCON's disciples course, IDC recommendation. Similarly, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he also gives an IDC. So all that we follow in the present day, it has its origin in the Shastra. We don't follow anything whimsically. So even in Mahaprabhu's pastime, Mahaprabhu got a recommendation from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So he gets the recommendation and Mahaprabhu, he decides to travel down south. But at that time, the associates of Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, they beg Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they say, Mahaprabhu, don't leave us. And of course, why would anyone want to be away from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there in Bergen County, which devotee of that Sangha will want Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go away? So similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Jagannath Puri. So the devotees are begging, my dear Lord, please don't go. I know Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has asked you to go, but please do not leave. So Mahaprabhu is also Bhagavan. Like Kaviraj Goswami says, Krishna Bhakta ei bada chatur. The devotees of Krishna are very smart. But if devotees of Krishna are smart, Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is even more smarter. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tricks all his associates. He says that, oh, actually, I don't want to go. But there is a very deep reason why I should be going to South. And he says the reason is I want to find my older brother. Who is the older brother of Mahaprabhu? Vishwarup. So Mahaprabhu says, I want to find my older brother Vishwarup. Vishwarup, after taking sannyas, is not seen anywhere. No one knows where Vishwarup has gone. So I want to go out. I want to travel to different places to find my brother. And once I find my brother, I guarantee I will come back. So Mahaprabhu tricks. And by tricking like this, the next day morning, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves. And naturally, when Gauranga Mahaprabhu leaves next day morning to go down south, the devotees are crying. In South India, they're just weeping. Heno Prabhu kotha gela Gaura Natharaj. Oh, where did that great dancer Gauranga Mahaprabhu go? Where did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu go? So Mahaprabhu left. But was this the actual reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went down south? No. Because at this time, Kaviraj Goswami describes that Mahaprabhu's older brother Vishwarup had already gone back to Godhead. He was no longer present. He had already gone back to Godhead. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just tricked all of his Jagannath Vasi associates, and he left for down south. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that his brother has departed and gone back home, back to Godhead. So eventually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he reaches down south and he comes to the bank of Godavari. And when Mahaprabhu comes to the bank of Godavari, there is a big procession that is going on. Thousands and thousands of people have assembled. And there's a big procession. There is bugle and there is trumpet and there are drums. And a big procession is going on. So Mahaprabhu is perplexed. He is bewildered. He's curious that what is this festival all about? And then when Mahaprabhu just keeps looking at this whole scene, he sees one personality is brought on a palanquin. One personality is being carried on a palanquin. And this personality is coming with thousands of men. Why? To take a bath. Thousands of men are escorting this personality just for a bath. So Mahaprabhu is curious, who is this personality? And for him, for just one normal bath, thousands of people are coming. Who is this personality? Mahaprabhu is curious. And this personality, he looks at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looks at this personality. And Mahaprabhu looks at him and says, Tumi Rai Ramananda? Are you Ramananda Rai? And when this personality hears, he says, yes, Ami Rai Ramananda and Ami Dasa Manda Shudra. He says, I am Ramananda Rai, but he adds some adjectives. He says, I am Dasa, I am Manda, and I am Shudra. He adds these adjectives. Dasa means I am servant. Manda, less intelligent. And Shudra, I am not from a high class birth, my dear Lord. He says, Ami Rai Ramananda, Ami Dasa, Ami Manda, Ami Shudra. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hears this, Mahaprabhu loves it very much. Not because he accepted his Ramananda Rai, but because he added these three adjectives. See, Mahaprabhu, he sees the humility of the heart. As Srila Radhanath Maharaj often says, that the Supreme Lord smells the fragrance of the heart. Our externals don't matter, but what matters is what is there inside our heart. So Ramananda Rai is demonstrating the epitome of humility. He says, Ami Dasa Manda Shudra. And it's so interesting. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hears this, Mahaprabhu embraces him. And both of them start crying. Both of them start crying. Now it's so fascinating. Both of them are meeting for the first time. And we see when we meet someone for the first time, we don't cry. We first try to know who they are, what is their name, what is their background, what they do, etc. But Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai are meeting for the first time and both are crying incessantly. Kaviraj Goswami says it's almost like two clouds dashed amongst each other and were bathing each other with their tears. So it's interesting. Why are they crying when they're meeting for the first time? But before that, we see that, just emphasizing on this point as to what Ramananda Rai said. He says that I am Dasa Manda Shudra. He expresses his humility and Mahaprabhu embraces him. And we see this pattern time and again in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahaprabhu, this is so encouraging. Mahaprabhu picks personalities who externally are not coming from high birth, but not only picks them, he also accepts, embraces, and gives them a prominent position in our Sampradaya. Like, for example, Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur came from a Muslim birth. And Haridas Thakur did not have a Brahminical birth, but Mahaprabhu not just accepted him, but made him Namacharya. He made him the Acharya of the holy name. Another example, Shripad Sanatan Goswami. We started the discussion with Shripad Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami had pus and wound all over his body. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not only embraced and accepted him, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes him the Sambandha Acharya, the Acharya for Sambandha Tattva. And likewise, Ramananda Rai, who is Dasa Manda Shudra in his humility, Mahaprabhu not only accepts him, but makes him the Acharya for Rasa Tattva. Rasa means transcendental mellows. He makes him the Acharya for Rasa Tattva. As I said earlier, all the philosophical deliberations that we have heard, philosophical conclusions that we have heard, they find their origin in Raya Ramananda Samvada. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very beautifully picks different personalities who do not have high birth or do not have great external qualities, but he accepts them based on their internal qualities. So this is very hope giving. Whatever our background is, we can be rest assured that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will accept us if we internally beg and cry for the mercy of the Supreme Lord. One time, one South Indian gentleman, he came to Prabhupada. One South Indian gentleman, he came to Prabhupada and said that everything is good in your movement. Your disciples are wonderful, but there is one problem. Prabhupada said, what is the problem? He said, everything is good, but their pronunciation is not good. Everything is nice, but they're not pronouncing it the right way. Now, this is the wrong thing you say in front of Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is someone who can bash you left, right, center. Prabhupada would always have answers to cut the opposition. So now the South Indian gentleman, he said, everything is good, your moment is good, everything is wonderful, temples are good, Aarti, Varti, everything is good, but their pronunciation is not good. And when Prabhupada heard this, Prabhupada said, correct, their pronunciation is indeed not good. And you know who is going to teach them pronunciation? So that person said, who? Prabhupada said, you are going to teach them pronunciation. You will teach them pronunciation. So that person was excited. He said, of course, definitely. I'm a South Indian, so I can definitely teach. So then Prabhupada said, but for teaching, you have to come to our ISKCON temple every day, because our devotees, they are residents. You see, during those days, there were a lot of residents in the temple. So Prabhupada said, you have to come to the temple to teach them. But because they are from Paschatya days, they are from Western world, they don't know Devanagari script. So if you teach only once a week, it will not suffice. You have to keep coming constantly. You have to keep coming every day. And because you live very far, my suggestion is you stay in the temple so that you don't have to come up and down. And if you have to stay in the temple, that means you have to leave tea and coffee. You have to give up your filter coffee. And when that person heard this, he said, I think the pronunciation is okay. I think ISKCON is doing good. Their pronunciation is perfectly fine. Because you see, South Indians are fanatic behind filter coffee. So when he heard that living in ISKCON, he has to give up filter coffee, he said, I think their pronunciation is good. Everything is good. And that person later never came back. So the point I'm trying to make is Prabhupada, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, embraced everyone. Irrespective of what the externals were, Prabhupada always embraced everyone. Sri Prahlad Maharaj, in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, Manye dhanabhijana rupa tapashrutojas teja prabhava bala paurusha buddhi yoga naradhanani bhavanti parasya pumsam bhaktya tutoshna bhagavan gajayotapaya. Canto 7, chapter 9, text 9, Bhagavat. Prahlad Maharaj says that none of our externals attract the Lord. Our riches don't attract the Lord. Our aristocratic birth does not attract the Lord. Our intelligence, our strength, our effulgence, our sensory expertise, our anything it can be, nothing attracts the Lord. He says the Lord is not attracted by any of these externals. But if there is anything that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gets attracted with, he says, Bhaktya tutoshna bhagavan. The Lord is attracted only and only and only by bhakti. Bhakti is the only commodity that can bind Krishna in our heart, nothing else. And what is the example Prahlad Maharaj gives? Bhaktya tutoshna bhagavan gajayuta paya. He gives the example of Gajendra. What did Gajendra have? Nothing. He was a pashu, four-legged animal. But the Lord still, he came to protect. Our Acharyas say that day when Gajendra called out to the Supreme Lord, Krishna flew faster than even Garuda to protect his devotees. So that is how much the Lord loves his devotees. So the point here is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't see the externals, but just sees the internals. And he accepted and embraced Ramananda Rai and made him the Acharya for Rasa Tattva. But now, here a very important question arises. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming to down south. He's coming to the banks of Godavari to hear Rasa Tattva, to hear philosophy from Ramananda Rai. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in Jagannath Puri, Swarup Damodar Goswami was present. Who is Swarup Damodar Goswami? Lalita Sakhi. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could have heard the same thing from also Lalita Sakhi Swarup Damodar. Why is he taking the pains to walk all the way to come to South India to hear from Ramananda Rai when the same thing could have heard from Swarup Damodar? You see, valid question. Swarup Damodar is also exalted. Ramananda Rai is also exalted. So if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could have heard the same thing from Swarup Damodar in Jagannath Puri, why is Mahaprabhu taking the pains to walk all the way down south to meet Ramananda Rai? And we see, to understand this, we have to go back to Krishna Lila. Krishna Lila and Gaura Lila go back and forth. Just like you have a book and an appendix. Is the appendix part of the book? No, because the book has a particular story and the appendix is completely different. So is the appendix part of the book? No. But again, is the appendix part of the book? Yes, because the appendix has certain terminologies which help us understand the storyline better. So is the appendix part of the book? No. But is the appendix again part of the book? Yes, depending on how you perceive it. Similarly, is Gaur Lila and Krishna Lila, is there continuation? No, because Krishna Lila happened 5,000 years back. Mahaprabhu's Lila happened 500 years back. So according to time and space, there is no continuation. But is there continuation between Mahaprabhu's Lila and Krishna Lila? Yes, there is continuation. Because where Krishna Lila ends, that's where Chaitanya Lila begins. Mahaprabhu is coming down to taste the mood of Srimati Radharani. So the Radharani is there in Krishna Lila. So where Krishna Lila ends, that's where Gauranga Mahaprabhu's Leelas begin. So now we see Swarup Damodar is Lalita Sakhi, who is there in Jagannath Puri. Now Lalita Sakhi is 27 days older to Srimati Radharani. Now 27 days in the spiritual world is a very big thing. In this world, we find 27 days is not very big thing. It is very insignificant. But in the spiritual world, 27 days is a very, very, very big thing. So Lalita Sakhi is 27 days older to Srimati Radharani. And now naturally, because she's 27 days older, she controls Radharani. She gives instructions to Radharani. So much so that Lalita Sakhi is so bold that she even chastises and reprimands Krishna. If Krishna does something wrong, Lalita Sakhi comes forward, protects Radharani and chastises Krishna. So Lalita Sakhi is very bold. So one time our acharyas described that Radharani was in Man. Radharani was angry because Krishna, as usual, had done something. So Radharani was in Man. So Lalita Sakhi had taught Radharani 100 different frowning techniques. Lalita had taught Radharani 100 different frowning techniques. She said that, oh, if Krishna comes this way, you look there. If Krishna comes from there, you look here. If he comes from here, you look down. So she had told different ways to ignore Krishna. And after teaching the 100 frowning techniques, Lalita Sakhi asked Srimati Radharani that, oh Radhe, have you understood this different frowning techniques? And Radharani says, oh Lalita, I have understood everything. And after some time, Shyam Sundar Krishna comes there. And Krishna comes there and looks at Radharani and smiles. And when Krishna looks at Radharani and smiles, Radharani forgets all the 100 frowning techniques that Lalita had taught her. And Lalita Sakhi looks at Radhika and says, oh Radhe, I spent so many days to teach you, and with just one smile of Shyam Sundar, you forgot everything. Lalita Sakhi, Rupa Goswami says, she tells Radharani, she says, Durte Vrajendra Tanaye Tanushushtu Vamyam Ma Dakshina Bhava Kalankini Laghavaya Radhe Girim Shrunu Hitam Iti Shikshayantim Devim Gunai Sulalitam Lalitam Namami. Srila Rupa Goswami says, Rupa Goswami, Lalita Sakhi is telling Radharani, Durte Vrajendra Tanaye, oh the son of Nanda Maharaj, he is Durta, he is crooked. You see, Krishna stands crooked, speaks crooked, his actions are crooked. Tribhangalari Shyam Sundar, whatever he does is very crooked. Durte Vrajendra Tanaye Tanushushtu Vamyam Ma Dakshina. Oh Radhe, don't be submissive. Don't be like Rukmini. Don't be like Chandravali. They are very submissive. You don't be submissive to Krishna. Ma Dakshina Bhava Kalankini Laghavaya. Radhe Girim Shrunu Hitam Iti Sikshayantim. Oh Radhe, Shrunu Hitam. I am telling this for your own good. Don't be submissive to Krishna. Be contrary. Be bold when Krishna says something. Be bold. Chastise Krishna. This is Lalita Sakhi's mood. So she says, Durta. He is very Durta. Devim Gunaisu Lalitam Lalitam Namami. Rupa Goswami says, oh, I offer my obeisances to that Lalita Sakhi who can chastise and reprimand not just Krishna, but sometimes even Radharani. So this is Lalita Sakhi's mood. She is very bold. But now, Vishaka Sakhi is none other than Ramananda Rai. Vishaka Sakhi, when she comes down in this world, is Ramananda Rai. Now, what is the mood of Vishaka Sakhi? Vishaka Sakhi appeared on the same day as that of Srimati Radharani. So the day we celebrate Radhashtami is also the day of Vishaka Ashtami. Radharani and Vishaka Sakhi appeared on the same day, appeared on the same time, and naturally both of them have the same astrological chart. Which means if both of them appeared at the same time and both of them have the same astrological chart, which means both of them have same mindset. Both of them have same inclination. Both of them have same swabhav. Tendencies are same. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he comes down to this world, whose mood is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanting to taste? The mood of Radharani. Radha Bhava Dviti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming down to taste the mood of Radharani. Yes, if we can just mute the mics. Yes, thank you. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming down to this world, whose mood is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanting to taste? He is wanting to taste the mood of Radharani. Now, whose swabhav is more closer to Radharani? Is it Lalita or is it Vishaka? It is Vishaka Sakhi. Because Vishaka Sakhi appears on the same day, on the same time, with the same astrological chart. Vishaka Sakhi is more closer. The mindset is same. The swabhav is same. While Lalita Sakhi is very bold and she can chastise. So this is the reason Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted to taste Radha Bhav, is not going to Swarup Damodar, because Lalita Sakhi and Radharani have different moods, but is wanting to walk, is deciding to walk all the way to meet Ramananda Rai, who's Vishaka Sakhi, because Vishaka Sakhi has the same mood as Radharani. Is that clear? Does that make sense? He said the different moods of Lalita and Vishaka. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to understand Radha Bhav, goes to Vishaka Sakhi, who is Ramananda Rai. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets Ramananda Rai, this is the first time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is meeting Ramananda Rai, which means this is the first time Radhika is meeting Vishaka Sakhi in Gaura Lila. And naturally, when Radhika is meeting Vishaka Sakhi for the first time in Gaura Lila, there are tears that are flowing. Now, so much so that when they're embracing and when they're crying and they're bathing each other with their tears, there are thousands of people who have assembled there. And there are many Brahmanas also. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tells Ramananda Rai, oh Rai Ramananda, we are Sajatiya. Sajatiya means like-minded. We see Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. He says, Sajatiya Ashare Snigde Sadhu Sangha Svatovare. He says that one should associate with like-minded devotees. So Mahaprabhu tells Ramananda Rai, oh Rai Ramananda, we are Sajatiya, but he points towards the Brahmanas and says they are Vijatiya. They are of different mood. They are not in our camp. So he looks at the Brahmanas and says they are Vijatiya, but we are Sajatiya. Now this is such a fascinating point. We see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai have no similarities whatsoever. If you see from the external perspective, there are absolutely no similarities. Why? Because first, Ramananda Rai is the governor of Madras province. Ramananda Rai, he works for Maharaj Prataparudra. He's the governor of Madras province. So he has a very luxurious lifestyle because he's the governor, he's a politician. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Swayam Bhagavan. So there is no similarity. One is a politician while another is Swayam Bhagavan. Second, Rai Ramananda is a Grahastha, while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vairagi, is a sannyasi. So again, no similarity. Third, Ramananda Rai, if you remember in the start, he calls himself Dasa Manda Shudra, which means he comes from a low birth. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the son of Jagannath Mishra, who is the best among Brahmanas. So again, no similarity. So we see with these 3 points, Rai Ramananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have no similarities. Whether it is the lifestyle in the first point, or whether it is the ashram, or in the third case, we find that Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are completely different. There is absolutely no similarity between both of them. But still, when they meet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai are crying. How do we understand this? And to understand this, Kaviraj Goswami gives a very, very beautiful analogy. Kaviraj Goswami says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is compared to an ocean. Now, please hear this very carefully. This is a very beautiful discussion. And this, whatever we are going to discuss for the next 10 minutes, is nothing but the very first verse, the introductory verse of Rai Ramananda Samvad, Madhya Lila chapter 8. So, Kaviraj Goswami, he compares Ramananda Rai, Kaviraj Goswami compares Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to an ocean. He says Mahaprabhu is Gaura Abdhi. Abdhi means an ocean. Gaura Abdhi means a golden ocean. So he says Mahaprabhu is a golden ocean, while Ramananda Rai is compared to a cloud. Now, we see the ocean and the cloud have no connection. Externally, if someone sees, there is no connection because the ocean is there in ground level, while the clouds are there in sky level. There is absolutely no connection. The ocean have aquatics, while the sky, they have birds. So externally, if you see, there is absolutely no connection. But we all agree to the fact that even though externally they are not connected, internally, the ocean and the cloud are connected through the process called as water cycle, right? We all agree to this fact that externally there is no connection, but internally they are connected through the process of water cycle. Now, Kaviraj Goswami explains something called as transcendental water cycle. Till now in the school, we have been taught normal water cycle, but now Kaviraj Goswami teaches us something called as transcendental water cycle in connection with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. He says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like the ocean and Ramananda Rai is the cloud. Now, what is the water cycle process all about? We have an ocean, and by the presence of the sun, the water just evaporates and it ends up forming the cloud. And at sufficient temperature, the cloud bursts and that water again comes back to the ocean. In layman's language, this is nothing but the water cycle process. So they're internally connected through the process of water cycle, but externally have no connection. Similarly, Kaviraj Goswami says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai have externally no connection, but internally have connection through 4 aspects. Rai Ramananda and Mahaprabhu are internally connected through 4 aspects. How? First, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna of Kurukshetra, then Ramananda Rai is not different from Arjun Pandava. Arjun Pandava who heard the Bhagavad Gita. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna of Kurukshetra, Rai Ramananda is none other than Arjun Pandava. Second, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna of Vrindavan, but in Sakhiras, Ramananda Rai is a Gopa, is a friend called as Arjun Sakha. So Arjun Sakha is one friend of Krishna in the spiritual world. His name itself is Arjun Sakha, very dear friend of the Supreme Lord. So if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is compared to Krishna of Kurukshetra, then Rai Ramananda is Arjun Pandava. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is compared to Krishna of Vrindavan in Sakhya, then Rai Ramananda is Arjun Sakha. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is compared to Krishna of Vrindavan in Madhurya Ras, then Rai Ramananda is Arjuniya Gopi. There is a Gopi by the name Arjuniya Gopi. And finally, fourth, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radharani, Rai Ramananda is Vishaka Sakhi. So in this way, we find externally there is no connection according to Varnashram, but internally they're connected through these 4 means, whether Arjun Pandava, Arjun Sakha, Arjuniya Gopi, and Vishaka Sakhi. So this is the first point of the water cycle process. They're externally not connected, but internally connected. Second, what happens in a water cycle process? Whatever water gets evaporated from the ocean becomes the cloud, and again that same water comes back to the ocean. Similarly, in all other conversations, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the speaker. In Rup Siksha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking. In Sanatan Siksha, Mahaprabhu is speaking. With Prakashananda Saraswati, Mahaprabhu is speaking. With Raghunath Das Goswami, Mahaprabhu is speaking. But it is only Rai Ramananda Samvad where Rai Ramananda is speaking and Mahaprabhu is hearing. This is that historic section where Mahaprabhu is not coming as a speaker, but is coming to be soaked in the mood of Vrajaras. Mahaprabhu wants to bathe himself in the mood of a Brajabasi. And this is the only section where Mahaprabhu is hearing, but Ramananda Rai is speaking. So we find that whatever water gets evaporated, it becomes the cloud and it again comes back. So externally what we see? Externally we see that it is the cloud who is showering water to the ocean. So similarly, externally it is seen that Ramananda Rai is speaking. Externally it is seen that raindrops of wisdom are emanating from the lotus lips of Ramananda Rai. But it is actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like the ocean who is empowering the cloud like Ramananda Rai. It is not externally seen, but this is an internal fact that Kaviraj Goswami says. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he is hearing from Ramananda Rai, Mahaprabhu becomes so ecstatic and he says, Apurva Amrita Nadi Vahe Tara Mukhe. O Rai Ramananda, Apurva Amrita Nadi, nectar streams, nectar drops are emanating from your lotus lips. So we see Srila Radhanand Maharaj has nectar drops and nectar streams. Where is the title originating from? It comes from Rai Ramananda Samvad. Mahaprabhu says, Apurva Amrita Nadi Vahe Tara Mukhe. Nectar streams are emanating from your lotus lips. But when Rai Ramananda hears this, Rai Ramananda says, no, my dear Lord, Prabhu tumi vakta tumi shrota. My dear Lord, you are the speaker and you are the audience. Externally, it seems I am speaking, but no, my dear Lord, you are only speaking, you are only empowering me, you are only hearing. You are only doing everything, but you are giving the credit to me. He says, Prabhu tumi vakta tumi shrota. But Mahaprabhu says, no, Rai Ramananda. It is you who is speaking. I am just hearing. And at that time, Rai Ramananda gives a beautiful example. He says, my dear Lord, in a musical concert, there are many people who come to hear that musical concert. And everyone enjoys the music. Everyone enjoys the music. But we all unanimously agree to the fact that the music is melodious because there is a musician who's playing that music. The guitar sounds good because there is a person who's playing the guitar. The mridanga or the fancy beats of mridanga sounds good because there is a mridanga player who's playing that mridanga. Harmonium sounds good because there is a person who's playing the harmonium. Similarly, Rai Ramananda says, my dear Lord, I am like that musical instrument, but you are that musician. Just like the music is nectar to the ear because the musician is playing it. Similarly, my dear Lord, I am speaking, but it is because you are empowering me to speak. So in this way, it goes back and forth. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not ready to accept. At the same time, Rai Ramananda is also not ready to accept. The humility just goes back and forth between them. So this is the second point of the water cycle process. The third point, what is the gain for the ocean? We see when the water evaporates and becomes the cloud, it is the same water that comes back. What is the ocean gaining? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is empowering Ramananda Rai, but he is hearing the same thing. What is Mahaprabhu gaining? Externally, someone may think that this is time waste. Mahaprabhu, if he is empowering, why is he hearing? This is simply waste of time. But Kaviraj Goswami says that there is a difference. The ocean water is salty in nature. But now when it comes back as rainwater, it's no more salty, but it is sweet in nature. Similarly, we find this example of the Chatak Pakshi. The Chatak bird, Chatak Pakshi, he will be standing near a waterbed. He will be standing near Ganga or Yamuna, but he will not put his beak inside the water, but he will be waiting with his beak open for the rainwater. This point is explained in the 10th canto of the Brahmar Geet. Why? Because the water that falls is sweet in nature. Similarly, the knowledge that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving Ramananda Rai, this is salty in nature. Why? Because knowledge, till the time it's not put into practice, knowledge, philosophy, till the time it's not applied in real life, it's not of much use. It's only salty in nature. We may be PhD in head, but if you're kindergarten at heart, there's not much use. In so many of our classes, we hear that we should not be envious or we should not be jealous. But if in a devotee congregation, if some other devotee is glorified in a Sunday feast, immediately our Kaliya head of enviousness comes out. Hey, why did that devotee get glorification? I also donated. I also cleaned the floor. I also did book distribution. Why is that devotee only glorified? So we hear philosophy, but at the time of real life crisis, we are provocated. Our real Kaliya head comes out. So philosophy or instructions are salty in nature. But now when it is coming back from Raya Ramananda, this knowledge is translated into realizations, which is like sweet water. Just like the ocean is salty in nature, the ocean water is salty, but when it comes back as rainwater, it is sweet. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the instructions that he is giving, he is empowering internally to Raya Ramananda. This is salty in nature, but when it comes back as realizations, knowledge is transformed into realizations. This is sweet in nature. And finally, the fourth point of this transcendental water cycle process. There is a nakshatra called as Swati Nakshatra. In the astrological charts, there is a nakshatra called as Swati Nakshatra. Now, what is fascinating about a Swati Nakshatra? It is believed that in Swati Nakshatra, when it rains, every drop of rain that falls in the ocean bed forms a pearl in the oyster. The pearls in the ocean bed are formed only during Swati Nakshatra and during no other time. During Swati Nakshatra, when it rains, every drop, when it touches the ocean bed, there are pearls that are formed in the oyster. Similarly, Srila Kaviraj Goswami says, the meeting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Raya Ramananda, it is like that auspicious moment of Swati Nakshatra. When Mahaprabhu and Raya Ramananda meet, it is like that Swati Nakshatra. And every raindrop of wisdom that is coming from the lotus lips of Raya Ramananda, it is touching the ocean-like personality of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it creates pearls of joy in the oyster-like heart of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Just like in Swati Nakshatra, when it rains, pearls are formed in the oyster. Similarly, Mahaprabhu's meeting with Raya Ramananda, this is like that Swati Nakshatra. And whenever Raya Ramananda is speaking something, it forms pearls of joy in the oyster-like heart of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And this gives immense happiness to Mahaprabhu, even though he is only giving the instructions. But when it is coming back as sweet pearls or it is coming back as sweet water, it gives happiness to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this way, we find Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Raya Ramananda have externally no similarities, as we discussed, whether it is the lifestyle or whether it is the ashram. We discussed three aspects. There is no similarity, but there is internal similarities. Kaviraj Goswami says both are internally connected through this process of transcendental water cycle. Whether it is Raya Ramananda through four personalities, Rupa Goswami says Raya Ramananda is actually an incarnation of four personalities. Vishaka Sakhi, Arjun Pandava, Arjun Sakha, and Arjuniya Gopi. These four personalities come together to form Raya Ramananda. So internally they're connected through the process of a transcendental water cycle, though externally they have no connection. And we find Mahaprabhu hears all the philosophy, hears all the nectar. He soaks himself completely in this nectar after hearing from Ramananda Rai on the banks of Godavari. And whatever Mahaprabhu has heard from Ramananda Rai, this is like an ocean of nectar. Now Mahaprabhu later goes and meets Rupa Goswami. He goes and meets Rupa Goswami at Dashashwamedha Ghat. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes a drop from the ocean that he has received from Ramananda Rai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes a drop from that and gives it to Rupa Goswami. And now Rupa Goswami is so proficient that he makes that drop into an ocean and gives it the name Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu receives an ocean from Raya Ramananda. Mahaprabhu takes a drop from that ocean and gives it to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami converts that drop into an ocean called as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sindhu means an ocean. And that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Prabhupada, from that, he takes a drop and gives the world nectar of devotion. So the nectar of devotion that we have is a drop from the ocean that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received from Ramananda Rai. And that drop of nectar of devotion, it seems like an ocean for us. It is actually only a drop. It's a drop from the ocean, but that seems like a complete ocean. So we find the nectar of devotion that we have, one of the books of the Bhakti Shastri. That book also finds its origin in the Raya Ramananda Samvad. So this is why we earlier made the point that all the philosophical conclusions that we have in our Krishna consciousness, they find their origin in this historic Raya Ramananda Samvad. And dear devotees, it is for this reason Mahaprabhu tells Ramananda Rai, "Oh Rai Ramananda, we are Sajatiya." Because of these aspects, we are Sajatiya, we are like-minded, but they, the Brahmanas, they are Vijatiya, because they are not understanding this mood. Externally, they are Brahmanas, but they are not resonating to this mood of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. So it is for this reason Mahaprabhu says, we are Sajatiya, but they are Vijatiya. They are not like-minded, but we are like-minded. So in this way, we find Rai Ramananda, who is none other than Vishaka Sakhi, plays a very, very important role in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Having said this, I stop here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Rai Ramananda Samvad ki jai. Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who has given us this transcendental nectar ki jai. Bergen County Samasta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Arjun Sakha Prabhu, for like drowning us in this nectar of Ramananda's Sambad. You didn't even touch it, and it's already like ocean. Like it's not even, you didn't even bring the drop yet, and it's already, we learned so many deeper aspect about, like, the relationship and how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's this mood. I think you brought that into that picture. I really like the analogy you gave about the water cycle and the connections, even though physically it's separated, but how internally they are so much connected. And I think the bonding between devotees, like, how we also have to build this relationships, within us and be internally connected together. And that's what I think Srila Prabhupada also did, this amazing work, bringing all around the world people from different separated physical, like in all culture, the sex, the religion, language, all this bounding, and brought them really internally together to serve Krishna. And thank you so much for bringing that today. And I will take a few minutes before the question answer. Anybody has question answer, please, you can also send in the chat. Also, you can ask Prabhuji also. You can raise your hand. So anybody has any questions, please, you can raise your hands or put in the chat. I will start myself, Prabhu. I really like the aspect you were explaining, but sometimes, like, we hear all these pastimes of the devotees' dealings, Krishna consciousness is such a sweet, but when we are in the field of Krishna consciousness, like, with devotees and everything, that sweetness is not there. We start finding faults, like, where is that sweetness gone? Something happens, right? So we tend to, we have idealized by hearing so many qualities, so many good relationship, devotees. But when in our practical life, sometimes, like, it becomes like, that saltiness comes in our life. So how can we really perceive and really, feel that sweetness all the time? Or like, we may not be qualified to, we don't have that patra to accept, or like we don't have the patra to, like, accept that sweetness yet. But really, like, how we can understand and really imbibe and relish this sweetness of devotees association. Probably you're muted, sorry. Let me unmute you. I think that blocked. Give me a second.
Yes, thank you, bro. I was not able to unmute. Yes. So, Hare Krishna. So happy to see and hear from you, Ram Tulsi Prabhu. And as I said, I am so happy to see so many familiar faces. Um, it's always New Jersey always holds a special place in my heart because having stayed there and done my master's. So thank you so much for that beautiful question. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would make this point. He would say that the heart is like a patra, as you said, patra. So the heart is like a pot. But in order to receive that sweetness, the pot should be full. The pot should not have any holes. You see, if there's a pot, like for example, during Janmashtami, we have Kalash Abhishek. Now, if that Kalash has holes in it, then it doesn't serve the purpose. It should be completely closed so that we can do Abhishek for the Lord. So if the pot has holes, it's not of much use. Similarly, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would say, our heart is like a pot. But at the present, this heart has 6 holes. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya. It has 6 holes. And because of which sweetness is coming, but we are not able to hold that sweetness. Sweetness is there. Because if bhakti had no sweetness, we would have not been in the movement for such a long time. We have derived sweetness at some points. If not consistent, we all have derived sweetness at some point. So sweetness is there, nectar is there, but we are not able to hold it. And the reason for that is Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya. This pot has 6 holes. So naturally, if a pot has 6 holes and if we want to use it, what do? We seal it. We seal that pot. In India, we have M seal. Similarly, in the path of bhakti, we also have M seal. But here M stands for Mukunda. We have Mukunda seal. When we constantly hear about the pastimes of Mukunda Shri Krishna, our pot-like heart gets completely sealed. So the first point to always be enthusiastic on this path of Krishna Bhakti is there has to be constant hearing, constant Shravanam. Sadly, it is always seen that whenever Harikatha goes on, rather than Shravanam, there is adequate Snoranam. You see, when Harikatha starts, immediately there is Snoranam. So it is our predecessor Acharya Sen Shastra, of course, says that whenever we get this tendency of sleeping during Harikatha, it's because of past life anarthas. The past life anarthas are not allowing us to progress on this path of bhakti. So the first point is to have constant sweetness. We have to be constantly hearing. We have to be constantly hearing from the book Bhagavat, from the pages of Bhagavatam or the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. But this book Bhagavat cannot be opened by anyone and everyone. Yahara Bhagavata pada Vaishnavera sthane ekante ashray koro Chaitanya charane. This book Bhagavat can be only opened by a person Bhagavat. We may read a book Bhagavat to the best of our ability. We may also read the Bhakti Vedanta purports. But till the time a pure Mahabhagavat is not in front of us, we will not understand the real import of the Shastra. Now I give you an example, Prabhu. For example, if you are there in a kitchen, and in the kitchen there is carrots, there is peas, there is eggplant, and there is tomatoes, and there is rice, and etc. And if I am asked to cook, I can cook to the best of my ability from the dishes that are presented. At the most, I will prepare probably some khichdi. That also salt will be more or salt will be less. I will prepare the khichdi to the best of my ability from the ingredients that are given to me. But now if an expert chef walks into that same kitchen with that same ingredient, will he just prepare a khichdi? No. From that same ingredient, he may probably prepare chole, bhature, he may prepare matar paneer, and he may prepare so many other dishes. The ingredients are same, but because he is sufficiently skilled in that profession, he can come up with something unimaginable. Similarly, we have the ingredient called Srimad Bhagavatam, but we at the moment are like amateur chefs. We are novice. We may study the ingredient Bhagavatam, but we may only understand to the best of our ability. But a person Bhagavata, Mahabhagavat is like a chef, a 5-star chef. When he walks and speaks the same tattva, Bhagavatam opens up, the book Bhagavat opens up, and that's when real nectar starts flowing. So the point I'm trying to make is apart from hearing, it is always important to associate with high-class Vaishnavas if we want continuous sweetness. Srila Rupa Goswami, as we made the point in the class in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, he says, Sajati Ashare Snigde Sadhu Sangha Swatovare. He says 3 points. He says associate with like-minded, Sadhu Sangha, he says associate with Sadhu, but now comes the most important. He says associate with Swatovare. Swatovare means those who are advanced than us. Most times what happens is we end up being around devotees who are either equals or junior to us. But Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would always make this point that if we want to advance on this path of bhakti and we want to taste the real juice, real nectar, then we have to be under someone who's sufficiently advanced, way more superior than us. And being under their anugatya, being under their shelter, the Shastra opens up and the sweetness of Bhakti Ras also opens up. Just to make a final point, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he would always make this point. He would say that if I sit to open if I sit to read Srimad Bhagavatam, it may take a lifetime for me to understand and assimilate. First thing is completion. Second thing is understanding and then putting that into practice. Most of us, as you said, Prabhu, most of us fall in these places itself. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj very beautifully says that if I have to study Bhagavatam, it's going to take me a lifetime. Not even lifetime, but if I have to say lifetimes together, it's a lifetime's work. So then Tamal Krishna Maharaj in his offering, he was saying, but just by being with Prabhupada for 10 minutes, the whole import of Bhagavatam would come into the heart of his disciples. He would say that Bhagavatam that would take lifetimes to understand, just by being with a person Bhagavat, the book Bhagavat completely opens up and the sweetness, the juice of Bhakti Ras starts flowing. So there are 2 points, Prabhu, to understand this. First, there has to be constant hearing from those who are very advanced, hearing from those who are superior than us. And second, trying to associate with those who are Swatovare, as Rupa Goswami says, who are sufficiently advanced and whose heart is dipped and drenched and soaked with Vraj Bhakti. Only then can we get the sweetness that the Brajavasis had for Sri Krishna. Does that answer, Prabhu?
Thank you. Thank you so much for that deep nectar on this question. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare
Gil Mataji, please go ahead. Next question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for your fascinating class. A few things actually. One is just to clarify, when you were comparing the 5 chapters of the Bhagavatam to the life heirs, and similarly the 5 chapters of the CC, right? So when it came to the 5 chapters of the CC, the Ramananda Samvad, that was like the crest jewel, let's say, right? And then, but for the Bhagavatam, there's 5 outstanding chapters of the Bhagavatam. Now, out of those 5 chapters, this is where I got confused. Are you saying that out of the 5 chapters is the Gopi Gita that's the crest jewel? Because the Gopi Gita itself, isn't that 5 chapters?
Correct. Gopi Gita is the crest jewel. Gopi Gita is Canto 10, Chapter 31, Ras Panchadhyaya.
But the Gopi Gita is 5 chapters, right?
So when we say 5 chapters, the 5 chapters are called as Ras Panchadhyaya. It spans from Canto 10, Chapter 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. This is Ras Panchadhyaya. From the time when the Rasa dance started, when Krishna left the Rasa dance, the gopis chant the Gopi Gita. Then Krishna comes back again. He falls at the feet of the gopis. Krishna falls at the feet of gopis and says, Naparayeham niravadya samyujam swasadu krityam vibudhayushapiva yama bhajan durjara geha shrinkalam sambrichayatat pratiyati sadhuna. Krishna comes back in front of the Braja gopis and says, even in a lifetime of Brahma, oh Brajagopis, I cannot repay what you have done. Krishna says, your love is so great, even in a lifetime of Brahma, whatever I do, I cannot repay it to you all. So the 5 chapters of Ras Panchadhyay from 29 to 33 are the essence. But even in that, our Acharya said, this Gopi Geet, the heartfelt effusion of the Brajagopis when Krishna disappeared from the rasa dance in the mood of separation, where 60 million gopis came on the night of Sharadiya Ras Purnima. We say in another 15 days, we're going to celebrate Kartik. The first day of Kartik is also Sharad Purnima. Sharad Purnima, that night is the night when the Braja Gopis chanted Gopi Geet. So it is of paramount importance that if possible, we can chant Gopi Geet because that is the night Gopis chanted, the Gopi Geet. So this Gopi Geet is the heartfelt effusion of the Braja Gopis in the mood of separation that they had for Krishna. And all the millions of gopis having the same mood, chanting the same verses, in the same meter, in the same feelings, at the same place on the banks of Jamuna. So this is why our Acharya says this Gopi Geet is the complete essence, not just of the Ras Panchadhyay, but of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam of the 335 chapters.
Okay, so chapters 29 through 33, that's the whole Gopi Gita, but the pinnacle of that Gopi Gita is in that 33rd chapter.
31st chapter.
I mean, 31st chapter.
31st.
Even though it 31st, even though it ends with the 33rd chapter, the pinnacle is in the 31st chapter.
Correct. So as I said, all the 5 chapters are in connection with the rasa dance, but it starts from the point when Krishna was dancing with them. Then Krishna disappears. Then there is the Gopi Geet. Then Krishna again appears, and then Krishna falls at their feet, and then concludes the Ras Panchadhyay. So those 5 chapters are nothing but the episode of the rasa dance. It is nothing but rasa dance. So if I have to put it this way, rasa dance is the complete essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the essence of that is the Gopi Geet. That is chapter 31, which is exactly sandwiched between 2 chapters earlier and 2 chapters later.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then another question is concerning the different manifestations of Ramananda Roy. So obviously, when he's Vishaka, that's Madhurya Rasa, right? But what do you call the other rasas? Like, for example, when he's Arjuna Saki, Arjuna Pandava, Arjuna Sakha. What are the rasas that correspond to those?
Right. So when we speak about Arjun Pandava, he also categorizes in the classification of a friend. He is also Sakha. But there is a difference in his mood. If you see the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, Sakheti matva prasabham yaduktam he Krishna he Yadava he Sakheti ajanata mahimanam tavedam maya pramadat pranayena vapi yachavahasartam asatkritosi vihara sanyasana bhojaneshu ekotyavyapya achyuta tat samaksham tatshamaye tvam aprameya. Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, text 41-42. Arjuna is a friend, but when he sees the universal form, what happens? His friendship falls down and he becomes in the mood of a servant. He says, my dear Lord, I would call you Hey Krishna, Hey Yadav, Hey Sakha. I would casually call you by these names. Ajanata Mahimanam Tavedam. My dear Lord, I did not know your Mahima. I did not know your glories. Krishna, we would sit and bhojan, we would eat together. Many times I would steal your lunch. But Krishna, you never said anything. He says, my dear Lord, now that I have seen your Virat form, I have now understood your Bhagavan. I fall at your feet. So he is a friend, but he falls down to the mood of a servant. But now when we talk about Arjun Sakha, he is in the mood of a friend, a proper friend whose mood doesn't fall down. Arjuna is also a friend, but his mood falls down when opulence is displayed. Arjun Sakha of Vrindavan, his mood doesn't fall down when opulence is displayed. Third, when we talk about Arjuniya Gopi is in Madhurya, but that is the mood that Arjuniya Gopi has with Krishna of Shyam Sundar. Shyam Sundar Krishna has with Arjuniya Gopi. That is also Madhurya Ras, but there Krishna is the enjoyer. Arjuniya Gopi has the connection with Sham Sundar of Krishna. That is also Madhurya Ras, where Krishna is the Bhokta. Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Krishna is the enjoyer. That is also Madhurya. But the highest pinnacle is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radharani and Rai Ramananda as Vishakha. That mood is not Madhurya, but it is Sakhyaras, because Radharani and Vishakha are not in the mood of Madhurya, but they are in the mood of Sakha. They are in the mood of Sakhi. They are in the mood of friendship. But why is that mood higher? Because Radharani is superior than Krishna. As Saraswati Thakur would always say, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Radharani is even superior. So in that context, so if you have to see the hierarchy, the fourth on the list is Arjun Pandava, then Arjun Sakha, Arjuniya Gopi, and then first is Vishaka Sakhi, because Vishaka Sakhi is in the mood of friendship with Radharani, who was superior to Sri Krishna.
Okay, I was just wondering I think I've learned that there's a technical term for that kind of Sakha Ras that Arjuna Pandava has. You know what I'm talking about? Is a certain kind of Sakha.
So there are four types
okay.
Yes, so there are four types of friends that Rupa Goswami describes in Gaur Ganadesha, in Radha Krishna Ganadesha Deepika. Krishna has four types of friends. And Arjun Pandava is technically not described as a friend. He comes in the category more of a servant, even though he was originally a friend, but because he sees the opulence and falls down to the ground in awe and reverence, Rupa Goswami in Radha Krishna Ganadesha Deepika does not consider Arjuna in the category of a friend. But as you say, there are categories of friend. Rupa Goswami says there are four categories of friend. One is that friend who is superior to Krishna. When I say superior in the sense of age, they are older to Krishna in age, and those friends, they protect Krishna. Whenever Krishna goes out, Maya, Yashoda, and Nanda Baba have appointed some friends who are older to Krishna in age, so they protect. Then there are friends who are younger to Krishna in age, like Vishal Sakha. Then there are friends of Krishna who are called as Narma Sakhas, like Madhumangal. They are very, very, very confidential friends of Krishna. And finally, the fourth and the highest category of friends, even amidst the friends, are Priya Narma Sakhas. Priya Narma Sakhas are those friends of Krishna who have access to Sakhyaras and also have access to Madhuryaras. When Krishna is there with Radharani, these friends can easily go and meet Radharani. And Radha and Krishna are not, they don't feel shy. So the leader of Priya Narma Sakhas is Subal Sakha. And Arjun Sakha is also Priya Narma Sakha. So in this way, Rupa describes four types of friends. But Arjuna is outside of Vrindavan and he comes in the mood of more of a Dasyaras.
So how is it that he is simultaneously Priya Narma Sakha and according to Ganadesha Deepika, he doesn't even fall into the category of friend?
So
at the same time.
So Arjun Pandava doesn't come under the category of a friend, but when that Arjun Pandava comes to Vrindavan and takes bath in Mansarovar under the guidance of Narad Muni, he gets the form of Arjuniya Gopi, and with the Arjuniya Gopi, with a Madhurya Swarup, now he is, or Arjun Sakha, he is considered dear to that of Krishna. So when he comes to Vrindavan and takes bath in Mansarovar by the guidance of a bona fide guru, that is Narad Muni, he gets a form where it is a Brajrasic form. His heart is filled with Brajras. While Arjun Pandava, his heart is still not filled with Brajras. So that is why the classification. It is the same personality, but the mood has transformed after coming to Vrindavan.
So before he has come to Vrindavan and he is Arjun Pandava, how do you call that kind of friendship?
So as I said, before he comes to Vrindavan, he is in the mood of Dasya. It is Arjun Pandava.
Oh, okay, Dasya. Okay, so he's Dasya.
After he comes to Braj, he gets the mood of bring a proper Braj Sadhu or a Braj Sakha after he takes bath in these kunds under the association of Narad Muni. So outside of Braj, he's in Dasya. Inside
Okay.
Braj, he is there as Arjun Sakha and he is there as Arjunia Gopi in Sakhiras and Madhuryaras.
Mhm.
Hare Krishna.
Just one last other question is, when you were comparing the Bhagavatam to a boat, you said it's not even, actually, before I go there, there was one thing, Arjuna Sakhi, the relationship is with Shamsundar as enjoyer. So when you say as enjoyer, does that mean like in the like a Vaikuntha Vishnu?
So for our easy understanding, as Srila Prabhupada would always say, we start by chanting and hearing. We slowly start. For what happens is if someone is in 3rd or 4th grade, and if he is given a question of algebra or calculus or trigonometry, he may not technically understand it, but we gradually progress. So similarly, we slowly progress from the 1st canto and then we reach the 10th canto. So at the present moment, we may not be in a position to understand everything of the 10th canto. And this is why Prabhupada would say, don't jump directly to the esoteric section. We hear gradually, we slowly, progressively go, and there is going to be sections of the 10th canto which we will not understand. But we don't forcefully try to understand those aspects. We just chant, we are around the association of devotees, and we slowly progress. So there are going to be this section. This is a very deep section. So we slowly go and we take association of devotees and we chant. And by Krishna willing, realizations will strike our heart and all our questions will naturally get answered. Hare Krishna. I think we'll now open the floor for any other devotees if they have questions.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your answers.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gail Mataji. Thank you, Arjun Sakha, for this wonderful discussion. So there's one question in the chat. Sometimes devotees feel that, no one is superior to them and to me and more learned than me. So this generally happens due to familiarity with senior devotees. So that's a question, like what to do, like when one feels that, like I'm superior, nobody is like better than me, I am much more learned than me.
There is a reason why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Sripad Sanatan Goswami that Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koy, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the association with sadhus, this is the only way to advance in bhakti. We have Shastra, we have everything that Prabhupada has given us, but till the time we don't associate with devotees, we will actually not get the right mood, the mood that the Brajavasis had for Shri Krishna. We have joined Gaudiya because this is a Braj Bhakti club. We have joined Gaudiya Sampradaya to become Braj Bhakti enthusiastic, to become fanatics about Braj Bhakti. But how will we get Braj Bhakti? We will get Braj Bhakti only when we associate with those who have Braj Bhakti in their heart. If suppose Ram Tulsi Prabhu comes up to me and says, Prabhuji, can you give me $1,000? I can give Prabhuji $1,000 only if I have $1,000. Similarly, if we want Braj Bhakti in our life, which is the essence of Bhagavatam, and if we want to be like the Brajavasis are humble in nature. They don't have envy. They don't have jealousy. Like the question that is here, that we don't consider anyone superior than us. The Brajavasis, for them, they are simple-hearted. They're simple. Like Prabhupada, yesterday I was reading, Prabhupada was saying that Vrindavan life means simple life, uneducated girls, and it's a village life. It says this is Vrindavan life. So Brajavasis are simple in nature. To acquire those qualities, to see everyone superior than us, we have to associate with those who have these qualities. We have to associate with Brajarasik sadhus. Till the time we just read books and don't associate, we may be PhD in heart, but we will be kindergarten. We will be PhD in head, but kindergarten at heart. To put that into practice, to have that real application, we have to heavily associate with devotees, and those devotees who are advanced. Sadhu Sangha is like the one-point solution to all our problems. all the concepts of bhakti can be learned just by associating with high class sadhus. So we associate with those sadhus, and we hear Shastra and we chant very sincerely. When I say chanting, chanting is always in Brahma Muhurta. We don't chant after Brahma Muhurta. There is no concept of chanting at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, finishing our 16 rounds. The 16 rounds is always in Brahma Muhurta, as Prabhupada always showed us. When the sadhana is pakka, when the sadhana is strong, as His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj would say, when the sadhana is rock solid, when we follow that morning program that Prabhupada has scheduled for us, there is no way we can ever feel that I am greater to another devotee. Like Srila Radhanath Maharaj was once in Chaupati, and it was the day of Pandan Nirjal Ekadashi. And there was one devotee who was standing outside of Govinda's, and he was eating pizza. It was Pandan Nirjal Ekadashi, and he was eating Ekadashi pizza. So this one devotee who was standing with Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he told Radhanath Maharaj that, Maharaj, look, it is Pandan Nirjal Ekadashi and he's eating, he's feasting. And Radhanath Swami Maharaj looked and he said, he is feasting, his stomach is feasting, but his ego is fasting. But for you, your stomach is fasting, but your ego is feasting. He said there is a difference. He is superior. Even though he's eating, his ego is fasting. But for you, the ego is feasting. So the point I'm trying to make is sometimes we just get carried away that, oh, I am a senior devotee. I am very superior. I can sing Vaishnava songs by heart. I can sing Vaishnava songs without a songbook. We get carried away in small externals. But as Srila Radhanath Maharaj, in this example, he showed that till the time we don't get heavy chastisement from a superior, we actually don't understand our mistakes. So similarly, we have to associate with high-class devotees who are ready to chastise us and help us understand that we are no one very great. We have not achieved anything very great. Other devotees are great. They are spreading Mahaprabhu's movement. They are spreading Krishna consciousness. But I have not done anything. As Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would say, when a list of devotees' names is prepared, like suppose if tomorrow Ram Tulsi Prabhu prepares a list of all the devotees at ISKCON of Bergen County, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would say, when a list is prepared, our name should always be at the last. Everyone is superior than me. The whole world is superior than me. Even the person who came yesterday, the person who joined the movement yesterday, he is also greater than me. But I am not superior. Ami kichu nahi jani. Kaviraj Goswami says, I don't know anything. So when we associate with those devotees like Ramananda Rai, Dasa Manda Shudra, who is having this high class level of humility, that's when we will get it. Sitting in one corner and not getting sadhu sangha, we may progress only till one point. But if we really want to advance in bhakti and if we want to accelerate our way back home, back to Godhead, the sooner the better, the faster the better, then we have to associate with those devotees who have stamped their way back home, back to Godhead. By associating with them, by becoming their kripa patra, by becoming the recipients of their mercy, that's when we will get these qualities in our heart, or else it is very difficult. Very, very difficult. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Yeah, that's wonderful. There's an additional question on that, please. Like, that is okay, but in a community, sometimes, like, you're speaking about, like, associating in a community where to advance. But what if, like, even someone is feeling in that community that, like, there is no advanced devotee and they all have faults? So in that situation, when somebody feels like that, so what is the way?
Even if we feel that in a congregation there is no one advanced, now this is the first flaw. As Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj always would say, everyone is advanced. So if we think that no one is advanced or no one is superior than us, then it's a diseased condition. That is like a litmus test. We have to understand that we are in a diseased condition, because in reality, every devotee is superior than me. Every single devotee is superior than me. But if we still feel that I am very great, I chant 32 rounds, that devotee chants only 16 rounds. I distribute books, he doesn't distribute books. or I am Brahmanically initiated, he is not Brahmanically initiated, like these external, small things. If we think that because of these reasons, we are very advanced, even then we will have at least one devotee in our life whom we think is advanced. We will at least respect our guru. We will at least accept the fact that he's advanced than us. If we think that if our guru is also not advanced, then we are really diseased. We are really in a disease condition. We should at least accept this fact that our Guru Maharaj is at least advanced than us. That is why we have taken Diksha. We have taken Diksha so that this personality is superior than me, and by being in his Anugatya, I will also advance. So if by some means, if by some means we feel that no one is advanced, everyone is Kanishta, I am only Uttam Adhikari, but still our Guru Maharaj is advanced, and we can take shelter of our Guru Maharaj to the best of our ability. If we think that we are very advanced and others are not advanced, it only shows that we are not hearing the classes of our spiritual master. We are not associating with him. There are two types of association, Vani and Vapu. Not everyone has the ability to get Vapu association, especially if you're in ISKCON. Most of Prabhupada disciples, sannyasis are always traveling. So there is no question of having Vapu association. But no one can give this excuse that they don't have Vani association. Our Guru Maharaj may be in remote corner of the world, but by hearing his classes, we can still associate with him, that is Vani. So we should at least be convinced of this fact that my Guru Maharaj is advanced, and we have to heavily hear the classes of our spiritual master combined with the classes of Srila Prabhupada. If we feel everyone is Kanishta and only I am advanced, it shows that we are not hearing. Because Shravanam is the first limb of Bhakti, Prahlad Maharaj says. Kirtanam is also later. First is Shravanam. If there is no proper hearing, that is when such misconceptions will arise. So to eradicate these misconceptions, we have to heavily hear. And if we think no one is advanced, let us at least start by hearing our Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada. We have joined ISKCON, which means we are convinced for the fact that Prabhupada is advanced. We should at least be convinced of this. Guru Maharaj is advanced and Prabhupada is advanced, and our predecessor acharyas are advanced. So we can at least start with this. We can take baby steps. We can heavily hear our Guru Maharaj. I know devotees in North America having full-time IT profession or who are in doctor's field and hear three classes of their spiritual master every single day. And every class would be like 2 hours. So 6 hours of hearing amidst a grahastha life, amidst kids, amidst a full-time job. So there is no excuse for hearing. So the more we hear, the more we do Shravanam, that's when these misconceptions can go away. The more we associate with an advanced sadhu through Vani, that's when we will get their qualities of considering everyone else superior and considering ourselves very low. But if we do not have that mode, it only shows that we are not hearing adequately. Just by hearing on a Wednesday Sangha or just by hearing on Sunday feast, that is not enough. There are 7 days in a week. To keep us charged on this path of bhakti, we need everyday hearing. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Ideally, nityam means 24 hours. But Kali Yuga understanding of nityam means at least once a day. So at least once a day there should be hearing. But if we are not even doing that, then the result will be, oh, I am advanced, everyone else is Kanishta. But we constantly hear at least 7 classes in a week. Then we build up. When there is constant Shravanam, these misconceptions can never creep in. But if the misconceptions are creeping in, it only means there is no proper sadhu sangha with an advanced Vaishnava like our Gurujan or Srila Prabhupada through Vani. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a wonderful answer. There's a question over there, like you said that the Srimad Bhagavatam is more like a boat than a ship, which is surprising since the ship is bigger. Why is that?
Right. So the understanding is Srimad Bhagavatam is like a boat because even though Bhagavatam is given to us, not everyone takes complete advantage of it. Bhagavatam is there. We distribute Bhadra Purnima and we also study Bhagavatam, but only few put that Bhagavatam into real life practice. So Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye, Krishna says in Gita. so many people who are practicing, only few understand the Supreme Lord. So naturally, a boat can hold only less people. The tattva is there for all of us, but only few assimilate that, put that into practice, and get realizations in their heart. So that is why it is a boat. It also means if it is a ship, it can accommodate a lot of people. But if it's a boat, it can accommodate only less people, which means getting Krishna, getting the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not an easy affair. Only few people, only few people can get Krishna. Those who pay the price and those who follow Bhagavatam, who religiously take Bhagavatam in their life and follow Prabhupada, only those few people will get Krishna. It is that small boat who can take those who are sufficiently qualified and advanced and who follow Bhagavatam in their life. Hence, it is a boat. Hare Krishna.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So, Ramchandra Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Wonderful examples. You went to college, you did your master's. Can you share how, while being in college, surrounded by the busy schedule, people from different walks of life doing masters, how did you stay focused in your Krishna consciousness? How did you, because many times people worry that, my child goes to school, maybe middle school, high school, college, whatever, it becomes difficult. So how did you maintain your sanity and focus on Krishna consciousness while doing your masters?
I think for that, the credit goes to all the devotees who are present on this call, because I was there in New Jersey, and only because I associated with all of y'all was I in the right perspective. So I thank all of y'all for being in New Jersey and helping me being in the right frame of mind. But at the same time, as I earlier made this point, that when I was in New Jersey and I would live far away from New Jersey, I was living in Kearney, Harrison, Kearney, this side. And that was almost like an hour from our ISKCON temple. I remember many times even Ram Tulsi Prabhu would come and he would pick me up because there was no one to take me to the temple. So throughout the week, I would have probably no devotee association. But that does not mean that we are bereft of Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is there only on Sunday feast, but that is physical association. But even throughout the week, we can still be in the right frame of mind by hearing. Whichever part of the world we are in, we can still be in the right frame of mind by hearing. I still remember, just to give an example, when I joined my master's program, the first day there was this orientation program and things like that. And there were many Indians from different parts like Gujarat and Maharashtra who had come to New Jersey, and everyone was like kind of fascinated because this was the first time they were seeing US and snow and New York City. Like, you see the initial fascinations that is there. So all the kids were like kind of fascinated. And naturally, because they were away from the parents, that also just gave them inclination to start doing things which the parents do not allow, like intoxication. And the reason I bring this point up is I still remember on the first day of my master's, when kids were kind of bonding up, like you just see around Indians and you bond and you make friends. So in that interaction, I remember one guy, he just came up to me, and there was some so-called party in the college or something like that. And people were into meat and people were into alcohol. And here I was with 3 lines of kanti and a tilak. Of course, I didn't venture to go to my university in dhoti kurta, but I was still having a tilak. I was still having my kanti during my master's program. So naturally that caught attention. And I thought I'm going to be the scapegoat, because you see, if they see someone who's having a tilak and who has kanti, I thought I'm going to be the scapegoat. So that guy came up to me and he said that, why didn't you join us? And I said that, no, I'm not into any of this. And I showed him the kanti. Said, I'm not into any of this. So he confidently said, I still remember the way he confidently said, oh, you stay with me for 2 years, you will also start boozing. You will also start eating meat. With utmost confidence, he said. So when I heard that, of course, I said, I didn't tell him anything, but I said, okay, only time will say. But I didn't tell him anything. 2 years passed by. And of course, I didn't resort to any of that. At the last day, when it was convocation, I searched for that friend where he was because the branches separated us. But on the last day of convocation, I knew I'm not going to meet this guy again. So I went to him again. And said, do you remember 2 years back you said something? And he did remember it, but he acted as if no, he didn't remember. And then I said, 2 years back, you said that by being with you, I am going to fall prey. I'm going to fall victim to this. But you see, it's 2 years. I'm still the same. But in fact, that boy, he just deteriorated more. When he came to the US, there was no meat, there was no alcohol, and there was nothing. But after 2 years, there was meat, there was alcohol, complete demolition of all the 4 regulative principles. So after 2 years, I was still in the same place, but he went down. And believe me or not, dear devotees, especially if there are youth on this call, he appreciated that. I'm not putting myself ahead. I am not glorifying or praising me, but I am just glorifying Srila Prabhupada for what he has given us. He respected for what I followed. And this is one thing I have seen, especially here in North America, that if we are determined to follow something, people respect us. People don't make fun of us. People don't make like in India, if you see, you're always made fun of. I still remember when I was in my school and I would wear tilak, and my brother and I, we would both be mocked because we were the only people in the whole school who would put tilak. And I still remember there was one friend of mine who would see the tilak and he would call me ulta pencil because this is like a pencil. So he would say, I'm an ulta pencil. And this name just spread in the whole school. And they would call me ulta pencil, ulta pencil, ulta pencil. And the initial few days were very difficult. I was in my 3rd grade or 4th grade. The initial few days were difficult, but it's just a passing phase. To all the youth who are here, people make fun, people mock, but it's just a passing phase. They make fun of us for 3 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, not more than that. At the end of the day, everyone respects us if we are determined. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami had determination that are like lines on a rock. Come what may, he would not change. Similarly, we come what may, we meet different kinds of people. We meet different materialists. We work with different people in our office, but we don't fall prey to their lifestyle. A devotee should be such that people should say that after he came in our life, he has pulled us up. Rather than we falling prey to them, we should always be such that we pull devotees up. So even during my masters, as I said, I was away and there was no devotee association. But I am happy for 2 things. I'm happy for all the devotee association that y'all showered upon me. And I'm happy that we have something called as ISKCON Desire Tree. We have something called as ISKCON Desire Tree, where you have lectures, not just of Srila Prabhupada. We have lectures of every Prabhupada disciple, whether initiating or not initiating. We have lectures of all the next generation. There is no excuse for making advancement. There is no excuse for falling down on this path of Krishna Bhakti. As Prabhupada would always say, if we chant 16 and follow 4 regulative principles, no power on earth can make us fall down. So it's very important that we are in the right frame of mind. And that comes by hearing and associating with devotees as much as possible. And we don't fall prey to the so-called American youth lifestyle, whether it's the school or middle school or elementary school or whatever it is. People come, people will mock us, but we try to be firm and resolute on this path of bhakti. And believe me, I can say this from experience. After 3 days or after 1 week, people start respecting you and they no more make fun. They no more mock you, but they start respecting you. And once you gain the respect of the other person, now is the time you start speaking the philosophy. Because now you have gained the respect of the other person. Now you start speaking philosophy and try to pull him to the other side of the shore. But it starts with gaining respect from our friends. And that comes by not being susceptible to the so-called American youth lifestyle or even the Indian youth lifestyle. So associating with devotees whenever possible and hearing. Hearing is very important. I'm time and again re-emphasizing on this point of hearing, because this is one of the themes of Rai Ramananda Samvad, Shravanam. If there is no hearing, we will always fall down. There has to be constant hearing, at least one lecture every single day. We hear that lecture and we tell our friends, we tell our husband or our wife or our children, we share that with someone so that it stays in our head. If we don't share it with anyone, we will always forget. We don't just share when we have to give a class. When we have to give a class, we prepare notes, but notes have to be prepared all the time, irrespective of whether we are giving a class or not. Because the more we prepare notes and the more we share it, the more it registers. And the more it registers, the more it will register in the heart. And the more it registers in the heart, the easier it is to apply during the time of provocative situations. So it just different thoughts, Prabhu, of what I did. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Arjun Sakha Prabhu, for giving this wonderful association to us. And hopefully, I mean, as you were mentioning, like, the hearing importance, that how we have to assimilate like that hearing in our life and really keep that up like every day, like, when we have opportunity, we have time, keep hearing. I think in my college days also, that was one of my posts. I was always, my ears were always busy, always keeping like either kirtan is going on, either the class is going on. I think this is one of the thing I think we always have to keep up, and wonderful
like
things.
We can always, like during masters, I find like all the youth or bachelors or masters, they always have earphones, they always have AirPods. So we can also put AirPods and keep walking the campus. Someone externally feel that, oh, this person is hearing to American jazz or pop or whatever, but inside it can be like, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Inside it can be Srimad Bhagavatam. Who is going to come and ask us? Who is going to come and know? So the more we hear, it can be any walk, whether we are driving a car, whether it's email, whether we are walking. Uthite shuite yatha tatha naam lay desha kala niyam nai sarva siddhi hoy, Kaviraj Goswami says. Sitting, walking, standing, in the washroom, outside, whatever our activities are, we should always be absorbed, either hearing or chanting. When we are always absorbed in any activity that we are doing, then there is absolutely no scope for fall down. Fall down happens when there is lack of absorption, period. When there is lack of absorption, that's when we fall down.
Thank you again, Prabhu. And definitely we would like to hear you again. So we'll be inviting you to hear. If you're nearby New Jersey, we would also like to invite you coming to the center sometime to speak and like inspire all the devotees. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So we can all unmute and please thank with Hari Bol to Prabhu.
Hari Bol.